All right, welcome to this set of notes. This is the second set of notes for Chapter 12, and it's on sex-linked traits. This is the same standard from Chapter 9, although sex-linked traits is a mode of inheritance. So on the test when it says, what is the mode of inheritance we're talking about? Is it codominant? Is it incomplete dominant? Is it complete dominant or recessive? Or perhaps is it sex-linked? So this is just one more way that traits can be inherited. You also may see a pedigree that involves sex-linked traits. So what are they? A sex-linked trait is one that the gene, the code, is located on the sex chromosome, either the X or the Y. Most sex-linked traits are located on the X chromosome, and the reason for this is, number one, just probability. The X chromosome is much larger, so it makes sense that there are more traits on the X chromosome than the Y chromosome. The other reason is that because only males have a Y chromosome, there isn't information that's vital to survival as a human being, since females do not have the Y chromosome. So this inheritance pattern of X-linked traits, because that's what we're going to focus on. What does this mean? For females, it means that they can be a carrier. All of the sex-linked traits that we'll talk about exhibit pure dominant or pure recessive. We're not going to talk about codominant sex-linked traits, and we're not going to talk about incomplete dominant sex-linked traits. So because the females have two alleles, they can be carrier for an X-linked trait. Most of the X-linked traits that we'll talk about cause diseases and disorders. Hemophilia is a good example. If one of her alleles is recessive, meaning it would code for hemophilia, the dominant trait will take over, and therefore the female will not exhibit hemophilia. So they won't have it. They'll be a carrier for it, but they won't actually have it. Males, on the other hand, you see the disease hemophilia more often in males, and that's because they only have one allele on the X chromosome, because they only have one X chromosome. So they'll express whichever one they have. So if they get the recessive trait, then they show the recessive phenotype. So let's do a cross here. First of all, let's take a look at how we're going to set this up. So stay at the top with me here and we'll work our way down. The female, we're going to say XX because she has two X chromosomes. The male has an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. How we indicate whether that chromosome carries the recessive trait or the dominant trait is we put a little capital R or a little lowercase r on there to show whether the X carries the recessive trait or the X chromosome carries the dominant trait. So this female would be considered a carrier because she has one recessive trait and one dominant. She's going to show the dominant phenotype, so she may not even know that she's a carrier. This male has the dominant trait, so he isn't a carrier. He can't be a carrier. He's just either dominant or recessive for that particular trait. So let's do a Punnett Square for these. Here's the female. She's heterozygous for this trait, and the male is recessive for this trait. So if we put the male up here, you've got your dominant trait. And actually, that's not right, is it? Give me a chance to just change this real quick. There we go. And we do the Punnett Square for this cross. This is what we get. So we bring the Y down into the boxes, bring the X's down, there's the dominant one, and bring these over. Oh, and we need to fix that. Sorry, stay with me. So here's our correct, completed Punnett Square for this particular trait. If you notice, just ignore the R's. When you have a male and a female decide to have children, there's a 50% chance that it will be a boy and a 50% chance that it will be a girl. So half of our squares are girls and half of our squares are boys. In this case, the boy has a 50-50 chance of having the trait or not having the trait. They could get the dominant allele or the recessive allele. The girls, however, if you notice, one girl has the chance of being a carrier, but neither girl will express the trait. So if we're talking about hemophilia, if the small r codes for hemophilia and the large and the capital letter R is the normal phenotype, none of their girls would have hemophilia. This girl would be a carrier, but neither one would have hemophilia. In this case, this boy would not have hemophilia and this boy would. But the boy cannot be a carrier because he only has one X chromosome. So here's what the percentages look like. 50% of the boys will show the recessive trait, so half of the boys, and none of the girls will show the recessive trait. So the sex-linked traits work a little bit differently, but it's pretty easy to put together a Punnett square and figure out what the ratios are. So let's look at a pedigree for sex-linked traits. Another example of a trait that is recessive and X-linked is red-green color blindness. Throughout your lifetime, you will meet more males who are red-green colorblind than females. So in this case, you have a father, because remember, all of the boxes are boys and the circles are girls. The father is red-green colorblind. So the X chromosome that he donates to all of his daughters will have the recessive trait. So all of his daughters will be a carrier for red-green colorblindness. In this case, his boys did not get it. Okay, so they had the X chromosome from their mother. So none of his boys can be, here's one. None of his boys can be red-green colorblind because he is not donating an X chromosome to his boys. Boys only get the X chromosome from their mother. So mom donates her X chromosome here, 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 and here. Dad donates his X chromosome only to the girls. So this girl marries this boy from a different family, and they have children. She's a carrier. Okay, so she donates her X chromosome to this boy. She donates an X chromosome to this girl, and she also donates an X chromosome to this girl. Since the father is not red-green colorblind, then that means he has the dominant trait. But unfortunately, Dad does not pass an X chromosome onto his son, so his son is red-green colorblind. And you can follow the pattern all the way through. It is possible for girls to be red-green colorblind. If Dad is red-green colorblind and Mom is a carrier, then there's a 25% chance that they will have a daughter who is red-green colorblind. So take a look at these questions. Go ahead and pause this and take a look and see if you can answer these. Okay, so you counted up the males that were colorblind, and there are 6 of them. How many of the females are colorblind? There's only 1. So why are there more colorblind males than females? I hope you came up with the answer that more males are colorblind because they only have 1 X chromosome. The last question, will all of the children of a colorblind mother and a normal father be colorblind? Explain. So here's the colorblind mother and a normal father, and if you do that cross, all of their boys will be colorblind, but their girls will not be. All of their girls will be carriers. So see if you can draw that out and make it work. And that's the end of the notes.